Hi everyone, this is Jim Tolles. Today I want to talk about the illusion of time. The illusion of time is a difficult one for many people in the early parts of the spiritual path, but I think one of the things that makes it most relevant and really brings it to people's minds is realizations, spiritual openings, because especially with a realization, it really happens in an instant. There really is no time to it to some of the most real and profound realizations and an awakening itself. Like when suddenly there's just this crack in the ice, right? Or suddenly this thing spouts up and it's you that really comes forth. It feels like there's no time. It's just like suddenly it's there. It's like it wasn't, then it's there. And it's like, how did this get here? And it just completely screws with the mind's idea that we need time and here's this set of benchmarks that we go and a path and here's the map and all this sort of stuff that it likes to do as far as controlling how it's going to get to something. And there's no real controlling of this path. And I think this is really very jarring for a lot of people because a lot of people are trying to control it through their minds, and that's just not how it goes. You can try, but usually what happens is after years of meditating and a whole lot of arthritis in your knees, you're sitting there and you're realizing that you're in the same place, which strangely enough is a lot closer to the truth, is that you're still here. You're still in the same place. You are still in this now, in this moment. And that's part of the reason that there is no time. There is no time to really believe in on the spiritual path. You're right here. And so, especially when people start to get into this whole thing around like, well, I'm just not there yet and I need more time. It's like, well, if you believe you need more time, then you need more time. But in so doing, you're now creating what's already here and you're creating this illusion that it's over here. And if it's over here, you're never over there. You're always right here. So you've created an impossible situation. It can sound like a lot of mental ideas that I'm throwing out here, but for those of you who awaken and those who are starting to rest in that awakened space, you understand what I'm talking about, that it's just here. And so a lot of the spiritual path is this uncovery of all the stuff that thinks it's over there. All this conditioning says that something should be someplace else. The idea of the future isn't a useless idea. The idea of time isn't useless. It's helpful. It's good to know that if your kids get out of school at 3 o'clock, that you should be there at about a quarter to 3 to have a place to park and to pick them up. This is useful. The overmanagement of our lives through time and through these sort of benchmarks that we create around spiritual, achievements is ridiculous. And it ends up, suffocating our lives as we're trying to control things through time, control it through scheduling, and it creates a space that there's just none of that vibrancy. Things can't flow and kind of surprise you even, is what may come up. It gets rid of the relaxation, so everything becomes tense. I think a lot of Western culture is just super tense, just so scared and so locked into trying to meet all these timelines and these goals that they barely know who they are, just running from one thing to the next. So the illusion of time is definitely something that it really does come through awareness, because the more you see things as they are, you see how everything is kind of simultaneously in motion and still, the paradoxes start to align, then this becomes a real idea. Otherwise, right now, it's just kind of like, well, it sounds good. Or some of you may know some things about science and physics and what they say about time, and so it kind of makes sense, but it's not a real thing. And that's the thing about this stuff that takes it beyond concept. I always talk about how things integrate into our awareness, how we understand things on a mind, heart, body, and soul level. When all that sort of comes together, you'll understand that time it's not real, and it's not necessarily unuseful, but for most of life, it doesn't really serve that much of a purpose other than to become another limitation. So much of the spiritual path is about removing of limitations, and this is one that needs to be removed in a lot of ways. As you remove these levels of limitation, then you can actually step back in and use the tool appropriately. And this is what I call kind of the inside out work of the spiritual path. You go inward, you go to the truth, and then you go back out and understanding the truth, and so how to apply these tools. In many respects, the houses of our lives, how we've constructed them, are kind of built upside down. And so that's why for a lot of people in spiritual awakening, you tear the house all the way down because, it's situated on top of the roof and the foundation is up above, and, everything's inverted, which is why a lot of people feel like their whole lives get torn apart. It's because, well, in some respects it is, but it's partially because that house couldn't stand up anyway. And a lot of people have felt this throughout their whole life, but they didn't understand what they were feeling. It's like, why does everything keep falling apart? It's because you're standing on your head. Why does it all keep falling over? It's like, well, you're upside down. You're not actually standing on your legs. When you turn somebody back up onto their legs, though, for a while they're very disoriented. This too is like the spiritual path, right? When the awakening comes, it's something like, I don't know what anything is anymore, but I do know what everything is. And that paradoxical understanding can be overwhelming because it's like, wow, I really do know what everything is. But I don't. I don't in the sense that, I've been living in this world of duality. And seeing the truth doesn't match up with this level of duality that I'm still committed to in some way. And this is where a lot of things have to continue to shift. You continue to break it down. You continue to stop trying to rebuild the upside down house. Whereas you keep coming back more deeply into what you already know. And dropping into that still place inside, you start to see things more clearly. And as you see things more clearly, then you can step forth again. You step forth into spaces that involve time and creating things. And now you can honor them appropriately. There's a very interesting way where things seem to move incredibly fast in awakening. It's like everything kind of is sped up. It's sped up in the sense that it's no longer restricted by time. Because you don't need to spend, the next 9 years in that bad relationship with somebody to learn the lesson that this isn't healthy anymore. You can see clearly, oh, this is a bad relationship. So instead of 9 years to get to that point, you're here now. And that requires a shift. And so here's where time comes in, because now you have to, in many respects, retrain yourself as far as, what relationships to have, how to interact with other people. And I think this gets forgotten in a lot of spiritual paths, where they seem to think that we all immediately know how to interact and cope and, deal with the world after the awakening. And I think it can happen for some people, and it really happens to that space of continuing to allow what arises. But to some degree, this body and this self, the way we interact, still needs a little bit of training. That's been my experience anyway. But any of you can have very different experiences, So I often say, I hope you're staying tuned into your inner knowing as you're listening to me, because I want you to find your truth, not what I have to say. And those can be completely different, or they can be completely the same. And that's always actually changing. It's been changing throughout this video that I've been offering. And so that kind of goes with the illusion of time, because for some people who've been terrible time managers, it actually can be important to embrace that illusion to a certain degree. So you're setting up appropriate boundaries so you're not late for stuff, because there are consequences, because we live in the world of duality. In the world of duality, there are trade-offs. If you're late for stuff, that creates certain ripples around you, what people feel like can rely on you, what people want to be in your life. And so, in that instance, engaging with the illusion of time would be, in essence, buying into it a little bit more and honoring it a little bit more, because, things do work through time in the world of duality. So often when we talk about illusions on this path, we're not saying that they're wrong. There are a lot of things that are illusions that are definitely more in the category of lies, like you should look pretty. That's a lie. It's a completely socially conditioned description of, what somebody should be too. It's like, this is our beauty standards, which are completely made up. So those are lies, illusions and lies. But time is more of a benign illusion. Although, as much like anything else, if you get too caught up in it, it becomes more and more unhealthy. So being able to see these things clearly, and of course in awakening, not getting lost in the vast spaces that are timeless. Because I see some people get so ungrounded. And to me, this is the unintegrated part of understanding that all of time is illusion. But it's more like they're up here, just kind of floating. And so as you integrate back down and you understand that time is illusory, right? There's no time for love, right? So that's like the next level down. It's like when you come into your heart, there's no time to wait. It's like love is already here. So you don't need time to decide that you love somebody or anybody. Like, love is here. I think this really throws people for a loop once they see that. They start to see all the ways that they didn't believe they could be in love. And the body probably operates the most in the world of time, right? Because it takes time to do things, move, But even there are deeper levels of understanding that you're going to come to about what's possible with the body. You know, it's like when, um, just say like tension in the body just suddenly releases. It's like it happens in a moment. It's been there for like the last 30 years of your life and then it's gone. So this is where that timeless quality comes into the body. And then of course in the energetic level, that actually is the most timeless of anything. So yeah, everything just moves so quickly and immediately. That's probably the easiest level for those of you who are really, you know, in tune with your energy. The easiest level to understand. So these are some thoughts about the illusion of time. I hope you've enjoyed this, and as always, you can find me on my blog at spiritualawakeningprocess.com. Have a beautiful day.